Step into a world where the lines between reality and myth blur, a world of hospital corridors shrouded in mystery and elevators that may lead to the unknown. In this realm, whispered tales from staff and visitors alike speak of unexplained phenomena and haunting apparitions. Join us as we journey through these mysterious and spine-chilling stories, uncovering hospital urban legends that continue to intrigue and unsettle. Prepare to venture into a realm of shadowy corners and unexplained mysteries. There's an urban legend that circulated through email in 2003 about a child who tragically died during a routine operation in a hospital because someone used a cell phone nearby. In one version of the story, a 4-year-old girl with a fractured leg was undergoing a minor operation while connected to a life support system. During the operation, the life support system suddenly failed, leading to the child's death. The culprit was believed to be someone using a cell phone outside the operation room, causing interference that affected the system. The story, although compelling, has yet to be substantiated by any news reports, medical journal articles, or official records. It is categorized as an urban legend meant to emphasize the importance of not using cell phones around medical equipment. The legend exaggerates the potential dangers of cell phone interference in hospitals. While some incidents involving cell phones and medical equipment have been reported, they often resulted in minor inconveniences rather than fatal consequences. In the mid-1990s, a chilling story from South Africa began circulating on the internet. This tale revolved around Pelanomi Hospital, where a series of baffling deaths had left everyone perplexed. Patients in the hospital's intensive care ward were meeting an untimely demise every Friday morning at precisely 11 a.m. The strange part was that it didn't matter what their medical conditions were. Doctors and nurses couldn't explain this eerie pattern and even entertain thoughts of the supernatural. Troubled by the unexplained deaths, a team of experts worldwide was assembled to investigate this bizarre phenomenon. The following Sunday morning, a few minutes before 11 a.m., all the doctors and nurses nervously waited outside the ward, clutching wooden crosses, prayer books, and other holy objects to ward off potential evil spirits. As the clock struck 11, a part-time janitor named Pookie Johnson entered the ward. He unplugged a patient's life support system to connect his vacuum cleaner. In response to this shocking incident, the hospital promptly sent a stern letter to the cleaning company employing Pookie Johnson. They also decided to install an extra electrical socket to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. As far as the hospital was concerned, the matter was closed. However, the shocking story that circulated was not real. It was an urban legend that had made its way onto the internet. There was no credible evidence to support this story. It serves as a stark reminder of how stories, whether true or not, can spread rapidly, captivating people's imaginations. In Harare, Zimbabwe, a peculiar tale unfolded. This story begins with a bus driver whose actions set off a chain of events that left everyone scratching their heads. The bus driver was on a journey from the capital city of Harare to Bulawayo Mental Hospital. His passengers were psychiatric patients. However, this mundane trip took a bizarre turn when the driver made an unexpected pit stop. The driver decided to stop at an illegal roadside liquor store. He left the bus unattended and went in for a few drinks. Little did he know that this momentary indulgence would create a troubling situation. When the driver returned to his bus, he found that all 20 patients had vanished. Panic set in as he realized the gravity of the situation. Desperate to resolve the crisis he found himself in, the driver devised a rather unorthodox plan. He stopped at the next bus stop and offered free rides to several unsuspecting people. These individuals had no idea what they were getting into. The driver continued his journey with his new passengers, ultimately arriving at Bulawayo Mental Hospital. He informed the hospital staff that these passengers were easily excitable, justifying their presence in the mental hospital. It took the hospital's medical personnel 3 days to unravel the bizarre events. The truth became clear. The actual mental patients were still at large. This story, while unusual, is part of a broader theme in folklore where the sane are mistaken for the insane. It's a theme that has appeared in various forms over the years. It's worth noting that similar legends involving people being mistakenly committed to psychiatric facilities have been told. In addition to the bus driver's bizarre story, There's a related urban legend involving psychology students. These students pretended to be mental patients to infiltrate a psychiatric care facility as part of an assignment. However, things took an unexpected turn when they became so convincing in their act that they could not convince the staff that they were not truly insane. This twist led to their extended stay in the facility, during which they gradually lost their grip on reality and eventually spent the rest of their lives in the facility. While the story of the psychology students is an intriguing and cautionary tale, it's purely a work of folklore and has no basis in reality. There's no documented evidence of such an incident occurring in a psychiatric care facility. The thought of babies being switched at birth is a scenario that has long been fodder for dramatic storylines in novels and television shows. However, it's not just a plot device. It's a real-life concern that has occurred in hospitals, stirring deep fears in the hearts of parents. These rare but alarming incidents unearth a spectrum of emotions: anxiety, disbelief, and a quest for identity. In December 2016, the case of Tammy Van Dyke from Minnesota captured national attention after giving birth in 2012. Her son was mistakenly handed over to another mother who had just delivered twins. Unaware of the error, she breastfed Van Dyke's son for over 2 hours. This mix-up necessitated a series of health tests for both the baby and the woman, sparking a year of anxiety and emotional distress, culminating in Van Dyke's lawsuit against the hospital. While the fear of baby swapping looms large in the public imagination, actual occurrences are rare. The stringent protocols in modern hospitals have significantly reduced the likelihood of such incidents. In 1998, approximately 28,000 babies in the US were reported to have been switched at birth, though most were quickly rectified. Between 1995 and 2008, only 8 severe cases were reported across the US. The rarity of such incidents is attributed to advances in hospital protocols and technology. Hospitals employ several measures to prevent baby swapping. Parents are advised to remain vigilant, double-check identification bands, and ensure a known family member accompanies their baby during hospital procedures. In addition, modern hospitals often use electronic identification bracelets, biometric identification, and CCTV surveillance to enhance security and minimize the risk of mix-ups. The urban legend of babies switched at birth, while dramatized in media, has real-world precedents that remind us of the fallibility of hospital security. However, the advancements in medical protocols and technology have made such occurrences exceedingly rare. In the dark folklore realm, the Danvers State Mental Hospital story stands as a chilling legend. Nestled in the once called Salem village of Massachusetts, now Danvers, this imposing Gothic structure, dating back to the 1880s, carries tales of horror and despair. Rumored to be the real-life inspiration behind H.P. Lovecraft's Arkham Sanitarium, Danvers State Hospital has a past that rivals the most haunting fictional narratives. Originally built to house a mere 600 patients, legend has it that the hospital's walls eventually confined over 2,300 souls. The conditions within were said to be nightmarish, with patients living in overcrowded and inhumane circumstances. It's whispered among those who know of the hospital's dark history that it was here where the frontal lobotomy, a controversial and brutal psychiatric treatment, was perfected. The hospital's story becomes even more macabre with accounts of patients who were lost in the facility's chaotic environment, passed away, and were left undiscovered for days. As the hospital fell into overcrowding and disrepair, the line between treatment and torture blurred. By the mid-20th century, the hospital had become a house of horrors, with practices such as electroshock therapy and lobotomies becoming commonplace. The shift in mental health care practices in the 1960s marked the beginning of the end for the Danvers State Mental Hospital. With the building falling into ruin and the patient population dwindling, the hospital finally closed its doors in the early 1990s, standing abandoned for years before its eventual demolition. In March 2015, the digital world was abuzz with a sensational claim. The US government had been secretly implanting RFID microchips in newborns since 1983. This startling revelation, allegedly from a hospital insider, was spread by the Racket Report, a website known for its dubious content. The story, under the headline, "Hospital Insider Reveals the Government Has Been Microchipping Babies Since 1983, claimed that thousands of hospitals nationwide were complicit in this covert operation. The microchips, supposedly corresponding to social security numbers, were a means for the government to track individuals throughout their lives." Professor Katina Michael from the University of Wollongong was quoted expressing concerns over such surveillance methods, highlighting the risks of data theft and the potential for an Uber surveillance society. Despite its outlandish nature, this added aura of legitimacy to the story. However, a closer inspection revealed glaring inconsistencies and hallmarks of fake news. The article lacked concrete sources and featured a suspiciously high, yet unverifiable social media share count. This tactic of artificially inflating credibility is expected in the realm of misinformation. The story seemed to be a rehashed version of an earlier debunked rumor about compulsory microchipping of babies in Europe. Such narratives often recycle elements from previous hoaxes, adapting them to new contexts to reignite fears and conspiracy theories. The Racket Report's disclaimer added to the skepticism, which openly admitted to publishing content for entertainment purposes only. The disclaimer clarified that the stories, while inspired by actual events, were not necessarily factual and were intended to amuse rather than inform. Despite these clear indications of falsehood, the story temporarily impacted public discourse, demonstrating the power of sensationalist, unverified claims in the digital age. It served as a stark reminder of the importance of critical thinking and the need for vigilance against the spread of misinformation in an increasingly interconnected world. Pennsylvania Hospital stands in the heart of Philadelphia, USA, an institution steeped in history. But when the clock strikes midnight, the hospital is said to become the domain of an unexpected visitor, the ghost of William Penn. Known for establishing the province in 1682 as a place of religious freedom and democratic ideals, Penn's legacy has long been integral to Philadelphia's identity. As the urban legend goes, at the stroke of midnight, the spirit of William Penn is said to descend from his statue on the hospital grounds. It is believed that his ghost surveys the hospital and the town he meticulously planned and nurtured. It's as if his ghostly presence continues to watch over the city, ensuring his vision for it endures through the centuries. The smell of death is a popular urban legend that revolves around the eerie notion that a distinct smell emanates from a person when they are close to dying. This legend is rooted in the experiences of nurses, hospice workers, and family members who claim to have sensed an unusual odor around those on the brink of death. Moving beyond the realm of urban legends, there is some scientific basis for the idea that certain odors can be associated with dying. However, it's not as straightforward or mystical as the legend suggests. Scientifically, these smells are not necessarily precursors to death, but are instead linked to specific biological changes that can occur in a dying person's body. For instance, metabolic changes in the body can produce distinct odors. In cases like uncontrolled diabetes, a condition known as ketoacidosis can develop, leading to a sweet, fruity breath. Similarly, the breakdown of certain chemicals in the body can result in specific smells. It's important to note that these odors are not necessarily indicators of imminent death, but signs of particular medical conditions or biological processes. Furthermore, as the body's functions begin to shut down in the dying process, it's common for changes in odor to occur. This can be due to various factors, including incontinence or releasing gases and compounds from the body as it ceases to function normally. On the outskirts of Seoul, amidst a rich tapestry of history and folklore, stands the legend of Gonjim Asylum. A place shrouded in mystery, it captures the essence of urban legends, particularly those born in spaces with a dark and abundant history, like asylums. Built in 1961, near Seoul in Gwangju, Gonjim Asylum was a sprawling institution with a significant patient capacity, Its existence was marked by the typical operations of an asylum, with restricted access limited to staff and patient relatives during designated visiting hours. The asylum utilized treatments that, by modern standards, are considered inhumane, such as lobotomies and electroconvulsive therapy, contributing to its sinister reputation. Following the owner's death in 1996, conflicts with local authorities and the disinterest of the owner's heirs led to the asylum's closure. The building, left to decay and unattended, became a relic, a shell of its former self. Numerous myths arose over the 2 decades of the building's abandonment. Stories circulated of cruel treatments, mysterious deaths of patients without any logical explanation, and sinister experiments by mad doctors. Tales even suggested that hospital staff, not just patients, were found dead under bizarre circumstances. Local stories suggest that the mysterious deaths, accompanied by the hospital director's own life-ending act, and the subsequent disappearance of the owner, ignited stories of ghostly presences and spectral sightings on the property. This has attracted both adventure seekers and those interested in the paranormal to the site. Despite these chilling tales, investigations revealed that many of these stories were baseless. A local expert clarified that there were no official complaints or police reports about patient mistreatment or mysterious deaths at Gonjiam. The owner's death was due to illness and the director moved to another job. There was no evidence of supernatural occurrences. The asylum's abandonment and eerie atmosphere gave rise to these legends. The allure of the mysterious and the supernatural, combined with the asylum's creepy ambience, fueled public interest. CNN's listing of Gonjiam heightened this fascination as one of the top 10 freakiest places around the world, further amplified by the 2018 release of Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. This mockumentary-style horror film was based on the asylum's urban legends and became a hit in South Korea. Today, Gonjiam Asylum is no more. The building's demolition in 2018 ended the physical presence of these legends, restoring tranquility to the local community. In the heart of Ho Chi Minh City stands Choray Hospital, a medical institution steeped in history, with its French architectural flair and aged facilities. This hospital is the city's largest general hospital and the country's largest national hospital. Aside from its medical services, it is known for its eerie tales and legends. One such legend revolves around the hospital's ICU, a place that has witnessed numerous deaths. It is said that 2 8-sign charms are placed in the ICU. These charms are believed to possess the power to trap the spirits of those who die within the hospital, preventing them from leaving its confines. The story unfolds with an intern working a night shift in the ICU. At around 1:20 a.m., while busy with medical records, the intern is approached by a young woman complaining of a severe headache. The intern noted her details and directed her to bed number 4 for rest. However, the bed was empty when the intern returned to check on her. Confused and concerned, the intern searches for her, even inquiring with a security guard, only to find that no one has seen the young woman enter the ICU. The intern's unease grows. Back at the desk, a sudden wind flips open the medical notebook to a specific page. To the intern's shock, it reveals an entry for the same girl who had approached earlier, stating her time of death as 1:20 a.m., precisely 21 days ago, from a brain injury in a road accident. This chilling discovery leaves the intern in a state of panic and dread. Despite a background in science and medicine, the intern can't shake off the feeling of having experienced something paranormal that defies logical explanation. The fear of being pronounced dead while still alive has long been a topic of urban legends and chilling tales. These stories often involve scenarios where a person supposedly wakes up in a coroner's office, morgue, or even during an autopsy, revealing a terrible blunder. One real-life incident that closely mirrors these urban legends is the case of Carlos Camejo from Venezuela. In 2007, after a severe car accident, Camejo was mistakenly declared dead. As detailed in a Reuters report, the situation took a shocking turn when he reportedly woke up during his autopsy. The pathologists realized their mistake when his face, which they had begun to dissect, started bleeding. They quickly stitched up the incision, and in a twist of fate, Camejo regained consciousness amidst this nightmarish scenario. This case, while extreme, highlights the importance of accurate medical procedures and the potential for errors in high-stress situations like emergency medicine. In the complex and emotionally charged landscape of abortion debates, a story emerged from Warsaw, Poland, that ignited fierce discussions and raised ethical questions. This tale, surrounded by controversy and unverified claims, centers around an infant who reportedly survived an abortion attempt at Holy Family Hospital in March 2016. According to various pro-life websites, the infant, born prematurely at 24 weeks following a failed abortion procedure, was allegedly left to scream for an hour without medical intervention before passing away. This narrative was propelled by reports on platforms like liveaction.org and lifesitenews.com, often resurfacing in tandem with political debates surrounding abortion rights. The story traces back to a letter sent by Father Ryszard Hoła, founder of the Polish pro-life organization SOS Foundation Defense of Conceived Life, addressed to prosecutors and a Polish television station. The letter described an incident at Holy Family Hospital, where a child, aborted due to a Down syndrome diagnosis and other severe defects, was allegedly left unattended after showing signs of life. The infant's diagnosis also included critical heart and kidney defects, which, according to some reports, would have prevented survival outside the womb. The story initially sparked a media frenzy in Poland, partly due to the sensational nature of the claims and the moral and ethical implications they carried. The Polish weekly news magazine Polityka reported that healthcare authorities found the hospital staff had acted appropriately. Prosecutors were informed but took no further action, suggesting insufficient evidence to support criminal charges. The narrative's significant point of contention is whether the infant could scream. A renowned Warsaw gynecologist, Grzegorz Gorski, argued that a premature infant at 24 weeks would not have had the developed capacity to scream, challenging one of the most emotionally charged aspects of the story. The repeated emergence of this story in English-language media, particularly during periods of heightened political discussion around abortion rights, suggests its use as a tool in the broader abortion debate. In the haunting corridors of urban legends, the story of the organ harvesting scheme stands as one of the most disturbing. It begins with unsuspecting patients entering hospitals for routine surgeries, only to wake up to a nightmare. According to the legend, these patients find themselves missing a kidney or other vital organs, which are said to have been illegally harvested and sold on the black market. The tale plays on deep-seated fears of vulnerability in medical settings, mistrust of the healthcare system, and the dreadful idea of one's body parts being commoditized. This grim legend finds unsettling echoes in real-life events. In July 2009, reports suggested that some U.S. hospitals might foster a market for black market kidneys, driven by the lucrative nature of transplant operations. These hospitals allegedly turned a blind eye to the origins of the organs they transplanted. The case of Levi Isaac Rosenbaum, charged with planning to sell a kidney for $160,000, highlighted the potential for such illegal activities in the U.S. transplant system. Rosenbaum's case, if proven true, would mark the first documented instance of organ trafficking in the U.S., confirming suspicions long held by transplant experts. Adding to the concern was the case of Dr. Houghton C. Roosrock, accused of hastening the death of a patient, Ruben Navarro, to harvest his organs. This case, believed to be the first of its kind in the US, raised serious questions about the ethics of organ donation and transplantation. Dr. Roosrock faced charges for administering excessive and improper doses of medication, allegedly to expedite Mr. Navarro's death for organ retrieval. As revealed in these cases, the reality points to a complex ethical landscape within some hospitals. The urban legend of the Black Ambulance is a chilling tale that haunted the streets of Czechoslovakia during the 1980s. This sinister story, which spread rapidly among the masses, centers around a mysterious black ambulance that was rumored to roam the cities and countryside, allegedly abducting children for the horrifying purpose of harvesting their organs. According to the legend, this black ambulance was said to appear seemingly out of nowhere, targeting unsuspecting children playing on the streets or walking alone. The eerie silence surrounding its appearance only added to the terror and mystique of this feared vehicle. Parents warned their children about the dangers of straying too far from home or being out alone, especially as dusk fell. The story of the Black Ambulance became a cautionary tale, a grim reminder to stay vigilant. It was whispered that the kidnapped children were never seen again, fueling a deep-seated paranoia and dread. among the public. Interestingly, this urban myth was not rooted in documented incidents or factual events. It emerged and evolved through oral tradition, a testament to the power of folklore in shaping collective fears and societal narratives. Ethnographer Peter Jańczek, in his collection titled Czerna Sanitka, or The Black Ambulance, highlights this legend as a prime example of modern folklore. Despite its fictional nature, the legend of the Black Ambulance remains an intriguing and unsettling chapter in the folklore of Czechoslovakia. It serves as a reminder of how fear and imagination can intertwine, creating tales that resonate through generations and continue to evoke a sense of mystery and apprehension. In the sterile, bustling corridors of hospitals, where life and death intersect daily, an enigmatic phenomenon confounds and fascinates: the appearance of a spectral figure known as the man in the corner to those on their deathbeds. This phenomenon, which is talked about mainly in online forums like Reddit, has gained attention for its eerie recurrence in hospital settings, where science and the supernatural seem to converge at the final frontier of human life. The narrative gained momentum on Reddit, where a user posed a question to those who work in healthcare. This invitation opened a floodgate of responses, with the thread accruing thousands of comments. Among these, numerous hospital workers and family members of patients shared a strikingly similar account: the sighting of a mysterious figure looming in the corner of hospital rooms witnessed by those nearing the end of life, drawing upon their experience in hospice care within a hospital. One user described this man in the corner as an ordinary and unsettling occurrence. They recounted stories of patients in their final moments, fixated on a shadowy presence in their rooms, a phenomenon that seemed to transcend mere hallucination or delusion. In the realm of urban legends, one particularly unnerving tale stands out: the story of the Expressionless, which is said to have occurred at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in 1972. According to the legend, a woman in a blood-soaked white gown entered the hospital, her appearance causing immediate panic and terror. Described as eerily non-human, akin to a mannequin with a flawless, expressionless face and no eyebrows, her presence was deeply unsettling. This mysterious woman held a kitten so tightly in her jaws that no teeth were visible, the blood from the animal adding to the horror of the scene. Hospital staff found her calm, yet unresponsive, with an unnatural fluidity in her movements. The situation escalated when she resisted sedation, revealing a mouth full of long, sharp spikes instead of human teeth. The narrative took a gruesome turn as the woman, still without expression, fatally attacked a male doctor, whispering, "I am God," before confronting and assaulting security personnel. The only survivor, a female doctor, named her the Expressionless, and after this harrowing event, the woman vanished without a trace. However, this story does not recount actual events, but is a piece of internet fiction, originating from the creepypasta community, known for their spine-chilling stories designed to shock and disturb. This tale was first posted online in June 2012. Its fictional nature is underscored by its origins in a forum celebrated for crafting supernatural fiction, reflecting themes common in horror and folklore, such as fear of the unknown and hidden malevolence. The Expressionless adds to its disquieting nature by suggesting a being beyond human understanding. In her final words, the character's proclamation of divinity contributes to the story's unnerving and existential dread. Have you ever encountered a photo that gave you an inexplicable sense of unease? This particular image has left many intrigued. It shows a dimly lit, deteriorating room. Within this disturbing scene are women dressed in worn, tattered attire who seem to be levitating and scaling the dilapidated walls. Their eyes are hollow and empty. They each have pale skin with messy, unruly hair. Some believe that this photo was taken in a long-abandoned Russian mental institution from the 1950s, and that the women in the picture are patients exhibiting paranormal abilities. Some believe that the women are ghosts of departed patients. However, the real story behind this photo is quite different. It's not about a haunted asylum. The photo is actually a scene from a ballet performance. It was created by a famous German dancer and choreographer named Pina Bausch in 1977. She got her inspiration from an opera called Bluebeard's Castle by Bela Bartok. In the ballet, Those women you see climbing the walls are talented performers, not ghosts. They were carefully choreographed to create this strange and mysterious scene. While this intriguing photograph doesn't involve the supernatural, it's a fascinating glimpse into the world of ballet. Their performance in this unique setting showcases their creativity and skill, leaving us with a captivating image to ponder. In the Philippines, there's an eerie tale associated with the Capital Medical Center in Quezon City. Legend has it that a specific elevator in the hospital is avoided due to a tragic and chilling past. It is said that once, an orderly, deeply engrossed in conversation, stepped into the elevator without realizing the cabin was absent. The resulting fall led to their untimely demise. Since then, rumors of a haunting have surrounded this particular elevator. Adding to the spine-chilling nature of this legend, there's a story of a man and his daughter visiting the medical center. They found themselves in this very elevator, which carried them down to the basement rather than stopping at their intended second-floor destination. Following a man who disembarked in the basement and vanished into what appeared to be a solid wall, they were engulfed in fear and confusion. This area of the hospital, they later learned, used to be a morgue, adding a layer of macabre significance to their experience. The encounter left them shaken, frantically signaling for help in near darkness to escape the basement. Such tales contribute to the folklore surrounding hospitals, blending tragic past events with supernatural elements. Whether these stories are rooted in truth or embellishments of tragic occurrences, they intrigue and unsettle those who hear them. The story of a surgeon amputating the wrong leg is not only an urban legend, but also a real-life occurrence in multiple instances, highlighting the gravity of medical errors. In these cases, various factors contributed to the tragic mistakes, leading to profound consequences for the patients involved. One such instance involved Dr. Rolando R. Sanchez, who mistakenly amputated the wrong leg of Willie King, a patient in Tampa. This error was attributed to multiple factors, including miscommunications and misabling within the hospital system. Despite the severe condition of both of King's legs, the amputation of the incorrect limb was a significant mistake. As informed by a nurse, Dr. Sanchez only realized his error while still performing the surgery. This incident led to a substantial settlement for Mr. King and disciplinary proceedings against Dr. Sanchez. Another case occurred in Austria, where a surgeon amputated the wrong leg of an 82-year-old patient. This mistake was also attributed to human error, and the surgeon was found guilty of gross negligence, resulting in a fine and compensation for the patient's widow. These incidents underscore the critical importance of double-checking and verifying all information in medical procedures. They reveal the human aspect of medical practice, where even experienced professionals can make grave errors under certain circumstances. The haunting tale of the Angel of Death at Bexar County Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, is a chilling story that intertwines the supernatural with the grim reality of a medical facility. According to local lore, the oncology ward of the hospital was the setting of a series of mysterious and unexplained deaths, which sparked fear and speculation among the staff and patients. The legend goes that these deaths followed a peculiar pattern, occurring sequentially from room to room along the hallway. While it's not unusual for a hospital, particularly an oncology ward, to experience patient deaths, the orderly progression of these incidents was what caught the attention of the hospital staff. In their final moments, the patients reportedly spoke of seeing a nurse dressed in an old-fashioned uniform, reminiscent of a bygone era in nursing, who would visit them in the early morning hours. This spectral figure, dubbed the Angel of Death by the staff, seemed to be a harbinger of demise. On numerous occasions, patients were seen on video and diagnostic monitors interacting with an unseen presence. Curtains around beds would inexplicably draw shut, blocking the camera's views, and medical equipment such as tracheotomy tubes would be mysteriously dislodged without any apparent physical cause. These strange occurrences were captured on the monitors, including fleeting glimpses of a white figure moving around the beds, further fueling the eerie atmosphere in the ward. The series of deaths abruptly ceased when a room remained vacant, which should have been the next in the sequence. In a bizarre twist, there were efforts to relocate a patient into this room, but the hospital staff, driven by fear and superstition, resisted. Their reluctance to place any patient in that room caught the attention of the hospital management. When confronted, the staff were warned to remain silent about their beliefs and experiences, with threats of termination if the story leaked out. The unsettling events led several staff members, including the narrator's sister, to resign from their positions at the hospital. The story of the Angel of Death at Bexar County Hospital remains a haunting and unexplained chapter in the history of San Antonio, blending the lines between urban legend and actual events. Whether a figment of collective imagination or a genuine paranormal occurrence, the legend continues to linger in the minds of those who experienced it, leaving an indelible mark on the hospital's legacy. In medical folklore, there's a story without a clear origin passed down and retold among healthcare workers. In hospital urban legends, some stories combine the mundane with the mysterious, creating an atmosphere of subtle unease. One such tale involves patient X, who was admitted to a hospital looking severely ill and with a grim prognosis. Accompanying patient X was an old lady, presumably a family member or a watcher, who quickly became a figure of quiet speculation among the hospital staff and other patients. As days passed, people in the ward began to notice the old lady engaging in a curious ritual. She would wander the hospital halls, pausing at the bedsides of various patients, where she appeared to be praying or performing some silent vigil. While this act might have been dismissed as a concerned relative's way of seeking comfort or offering silent support, what followed lent the story an ominous twist. In the days that coincided with the old lady's visits, several patients in the ward began to pass away. In a hospital setting, particularly in a ward with critically ill patients, death is an unfortunate but not uncommon occurrence. However, the timing of these deaths, so closely following the watcher's visits, started to raise whispers among the hospital staff and patients. Despite the murmurs, no direct connection was made, and life in the ward continued its usual rhythm. Miraculously, patient X's condition improved significantly over time. After a treatment period, they were deemed well enough to be discharged. It was a moment of relief and perhaps a cause for muted celebration among those who had witnessed the patient's arrival in such a dire state. However, the story took a chilling turn after patient X and the old lady left the hospital. In the wake of their departure, the cleaning staff, or perhaps a curious nurse, discovered something unsettling beneath patient X's bed. Strips of paper bearing the names of the patients who had died in the ward during the previous days. This discovery quickly transformed the old lady's actions from seemingly benign to something more sinister in the eyes of the hospital staff and patients. The paper strips with the names of the deceased seemed to imply a connection between her silent prayers and the subsequent deaths, giving rise to a legend that spread through the hospital's corridors. Was the old lady merely a grieving relative seeking solace in prayer, or was something more supernatural at play? Had her presence and actions somehow influenced the fates of those patients, or were the deaths and her rituals merely a series of eerie coincidences? These questions lingered, fueling the legend and leaving those who heard the story to wonder about the mysterious watcher and her true intentions. In the realm of modern urban legends, one particularly chilling tale has persisted over the years. The horrifying possibility of being decapitated by a hospital elevator. This legend often conjures up images of a bustling hospital setting where elevators are frequently used by staff and patients alike. The story usually involves someone getting a body part, often an arm, a leg, or, more gruesomely, a head caught in the closing doors of an elevator. Then, as the elevator begins to move, the trapped individual is supposedly severed or torn apart. Elevators in these settings are not just conveniences, but essential tools for transporting patients, staff, and critical medical equipment across various floors swiftly and efficiently. This frequent and urgent usage of hospital elevators adds a layer of plausibility to the legend. The bustling nature of hospitals means that their elevators are in near constant motion, often operated under more stressful conditions than those in less critical environments like office buildings or residential complexes. In such a scenario, the likelihood of mechanical wear and tear and the potential for malfunctions or accidents could be perceived as higher. In a profoundly distressing case, where an urban legend becomes a reality, the story of Dr. Hitoshi Nikaido in 2003 at Christus St. Joseph Hospital in Houston is a grim reminder of life's unpredictability. Dr. Nikaido, a 35-year-old surgical resident, found himself at the center of a real-life tragedy that mirrored a long-whispered urban myth. On what seemed like a regular day at the hospital, Dr. Nikaido was stepping onto an elevator on the second floor. In a cruel twist of fate, the elevator doors malfunctioned, closing too soon and trapping his head between the door and the elevator frame. As the elevator ascended, it resulted in a horrific incident straight out of the darkest urban legends. Dr. Nikaido was decapitated, his body left on the floor below. At the same time, his head remained trapped inside the elevator with a female hospital employee. The witness to this gruesome event was confined in this terrifying scenario for approximately 20 minutes before rescue workers could reach her. She emerged physically unharmed, but deeply traumatized, necessitating emergency care for shock. The calamity plunged the hospital into turmoil. Dr. Nikaido was esteemed not just as a medical professional, but also for his aspirations to become a missionary doctor. His untimely demise evoked profound sorrow within the medical community, particularly among his colleagues at the University of Texas Houston Medical School, who regarded him as the epitome of an ideal physician. In response to this catastrophe, the Houston Police Department initiated an investigation. The hospital acted swiftly, decommissioning the elevator bank for a comprehensive safety review. This incident raised serious concerns regarding hospital elevator maintenance and safety protocols, especially given prior reports of issues with this elevator set. Although such tragic accidents are rare, they serve as a poignant reminder of the ongoing necessity to assess and enhance safety procedures in healthcare settings. Poveglia Island, lying in the shadowy waters of the Venetian lagoon in northern Italy, is a place that many believe to be cursed. This belief is rooted deeply in the island's harrowing past, starting from its transformation into a quarantine station during the deadly bubonic plague outbreaks of the 18th and 19th centuries. It was here that countless souls were brought, never to return, with an estimated 160,000 people perishing on the island. The mass cremations have led to the chilling rumor that the very soil of Poveglia is intermixed with human ash. The curse of Poveglia Island deepened with the establishment of a mental hospital in 1922, where the shadows of alleged inhumane treatments and experiments cast a long, dark shadow. The legend that amplifies the island's sinister reputation involves a doctor who, driven to madness by what he claimed were the haunting visions and screams of the tormented souls, took his own life by leaping from the hospital's bell tower. The echoes of the island's tormented history are said to be still heard today, with many Venetians claiming the bell of the island, removed many years ago, can still be heard tolling in the dead of night. Tales of the island being haunted by the ghosts of those who died there are widespread, with the story of the mad doctor often cited as evidence of the island's supernatural presence. Fishermen avoid the waters near Poveglia, fearing the curse that seems to envelop the island. The ruins of the mental hospital, along with the island's desolate and decaying structures, stand as a testament to its dark and troubled past. These remnants of despair, coupled with the island's isolation, fuel its mystique and reputation as a place of fascination for those drawn to the paranormal. Poveglia Island's legacy is a complex tapestry of fact and folklore, a chilling reminder of human tragedy and the persistent tales of curses and hauntings that continue to surround it. The belief in its curse is bolstered by personal testimonies and the lasting imprint of its grim history, making it a compelling chapter of the unknown and the supernatural. The La Planchada tale stands out in the tapestry of Mexican urban legends. It's a chilling narrative that whispers through the halls of hospitals, particularly in central Mexico and the southwestern United States. This legend speaks of a ghostly nurse, draped in an immaculately ironed, old-fashioned uniform, who tends to the sick and needy in the dead of night. The legend centers on a young nurse named Eulalia, who graced the corridors of a hospital in Mexico City in the 1930s. Eulalia was known for her crisp, clean uniforms and exceptional nursing skills, and her colleagues and patients respected and admired her. However, her life took a dramatic turn with the arrival of a handsome doctor new to the hospital's staff. Eulalia fell deeply in love with the doctor, and their relationship quickly became an engagement. But fate had a cruel twist in store. The doctor left to attend a medical seminar and never returned. Weeks passed, and Eulalia's heartbreak intensified when she discovered that he had married another woman. This devastating betrayal plunged her into a profound depression, severely impacting her work. Overwhelmed by her sorrow, Eulalia's once impeccable nursing care began to falter. Tragically, her negligence resulted in the death of a patient. Realizing the gravity of her error, Eulalia succumbed to illness herself and passed away in the same hospital where she had devoted her life. After Eulalia's death, strange occurrences began to unfold within the hospital. Patients, nurses, and doctors reported sightings of a spectral nurse in the emergency room, dubbed La Planchada, for her perfectly pressed uniform. A glowing and silent apparition was said to care for neglected patients through the night, mysteriously healing them. While the core of the legend remains consistent, variations exist. In some versions, Eulalia is depicted as a vindictive nurse who mistreated patients and is now bound to an eternal atonement. In others, her love for the doctor is unrequited, leading to a life of bitterness and neglect of her duties. Regardless of the version, La Planchada remains a potent symbol in Mexican folklore. Her story is not just a ghost tale, but a poignant reminder of the consequences of letting personal despair overshadow professional responsibility. Her legend continues to be told in hospitals across Mexico, a spectral nurse forever roaming the halls, seeking redemption in the care of the sick and the forgotten. In pediatric wards, a haunting urban legend tells of a killer nurse masquerading as a caregiver yet preying on innocent children. She weaves through hospital corridors, administering fatal injections disguised as routine treatments. Unknown to parents and hospital staff, she becomes an agent of untimely demise rather than the caregiver she's presumed to be. The real story behind this legend centers on Jeanine Ann Jones, a nurse whose actions in the 1970s and 1980s cast a dark shadow over her profession. Born on July 13, 1950, Jones worked as a pediatric nurse in Texas, where she was responsible for the deaths of numerous infants and children. Her method was as covert as it was lethal. She administered overdoses of medications like digoxin and heparin, triggering medical emergencies in her young patients. Jones's alarming pattern of patient care first came to light during her tenure at Bexar County Hospital's Pediatric Intensive Care Unit in San Antonio. An unusually high number of child fatalities occurred under her watch, raising suspicions. However, rather than conducting a thorough investigation, the hospital dismissed Jones and other nurses from their positions, hoping to avoid legal repercussions. Jones continued her nursing career at a clinic in Kerrville, Texas, where her harmful practices persisted. The situation came to a head when a doctor at the clinic noticed tampering with a vial of succinylcholine, a potent muscle relaxant. This discovery led to an investigation, unmasking Jones's horrifying actions. In 1984, Jones was convicted of murdering 15-month-old Chelsea McClellan and received a 99-year prison sentence. She also faced a 60-year sentence for causing harm to another child. Although initially set for release due to prison overcrowding laws, further charges were brought against her in 2017, leading to additional convictions and ensuring she remained incarcerated. The Grey Lady ghost story, particularly associated with St. Thomas's Hospital in London and the Cambridge Military Hospital in Aldershot, is steeped in the rich tradition of hospital folklore. These legends often depict the Grey Lady as a spectral nurse, symbolizing an enduring commitment to caregiving even beyond death. In various accounts, the Grey Lady is described as appearing in dated nurse uniforms, with some stories highlighting her sudden disappearance. At St. Thomas's Hospital, over 900 years old, such tales are not uncommon. The Grey Lady is frequently reported by patients, particularly those nearing death, and sometimes mistaken for a living person due to her realistic appearance. This spirit is said to haunt the hospital's upper floors, particularly between wards 10 and 14, and her presence is often associated with the smell of lavender. The story suggests she was a nurse from Queen Alexandra's Royal Army Nursing Corps, who, burdened with guilt after accidentally causing a patient's death, ended her life by jumping from the upper floor walkway. Numerous witnesses have reported eerie experiences involving the Grey Lady. Patients and hospital staff have described encounters with a figure in an old-fashioned nursing uniform, sometimes observing her with no visible legs below the knees or witnessing her vanish suddenly. In today's society, one of the most deeply ingrained and morbid fears associated with surgery is the prospect of waking up during anesthesia, a phenomenon known as anesthesia awareness. This fear taps into the primal dread of not only experiencing surgery consciously, but also being trapped within one's own body, unable to move or communicate. It's a fear that resonates with our most fundamental anxieties about vulnerability, pain, and the unknown workings of our minds under the influence of modern medicine. These experiences under anesthesia aren't just clinically fascinating, they often leave profound psychological scars. Patients have reported a range of experiences, from hearing conversations to feeling pain during surgery, leading to long-term emotional and psychological trauma. In the 1980s, a woman's surgical experience, seemingly successful at first, spiraled into a haunting ordeal. After her surgery for cancer, she was plagued by a persistent, unexplainable fear of impending death. Her distress only intensified until a follow-up meeting with her surgeon revealed a shocking truth. Unbeknownst to her, she had partially awakened during the surgery, subconsciously registering the surgeon's complaints about persistent black mold at his home. This incident, where her conscious mind was unaware but her subconscious was actively listening, dramatically affected her post-operative mental state. One tragic story is of Sherman Sizemore, a Baptist minister who underwent surgery in 2006. Unfortunately, in Sizemore's case, he was conscious. He experienced excruciating pain for about 16 minutes during the surgery, as the medical team had administered paralyzing drugs without proper general anesthesia to render him unconscious. To cover up this error, it is reported that they administered an amnesia-inducing drug to Sizemore after they became aware of the mistake. This was presumably done in an attempt to prevent him from remembering the traumatic experience. Following the surgery, Sizemore experienced severe psychological trauma, including panic attacks, insomnia, and nightmares. He was haunted by the belief that people were trying to bury him alive. Despite having no history of psychological issues, Sizemore's mental state deteriorated rapidly, culminating in him taking his own life 2 weeks after the surgery. His family filed a lawsuit against Relic Anesthesia Associates, alleging that Sizemore was not informed about the anesthesia error, contributing to his mental anguish. While the concept of waking up during surgery is undoubtedly unsettling, it's essential to recognize that anesthesia awareness is, in fact, an infrequent occurrence. Statistics indicate that the incidence of this phenomenon is about 1 to 2 cases per every 1,000 patients undergoing general anesthesia. The legend of the Michigan melon heads weaves a chilling narrative rooted in the eerie landscapes of Michigan's forests and the historic Felt Mansion. According to local law, the melon heads were once hydrocephalic children treated at a hospital near Saugatuck, Michigan. When the hospital closed, these children, abandoned and with nowhere to turn, were released into the wild. Their heads, swollen due to their condition, became a distinct feature that fueled the legend. Over time, they supposedly devolved into feral beings, small in stature, but with alarmingly large heads. Some versions of the tale speak of abuse suffered by these children before their release, adding a layer of tragedy to their already forlorn existence. The Felt Mansion, a grand structure built in 1928 by Dorr Felt for his wife, is central to this legend. Over the years, it has served various purposes, from a summer home to a school, a chapel, and even a prison. It's this mansion that the Melonheads are said to have initially inhabited after their release. Later, as the story goes, they retreat to an elaborate network of underground caverns in the woods surrounding the mansion. While the Allegan County Historical Society has debunked the claim that the mansion ever served as an asylum, the tales persist, fueled by sightings and eerie experiences. Local teenagers and thrill-seekers venturing near the Felt Mansion have reported unsettling encounters with the Melonheads. They speak of seeing shadows darting through the forest, hearing unexplained noises, and witnessing strange movements behind the mansion's curtains. Adding to the mystique, a former student of the St. Augustine Seminary, which once operated in the Felt Mansion, offered an alternative explanation. The term Melonheads, he claimed, was a nickname given to the seminarians by locals due to their intelligence and academic pursuits. Despite these rational explanations, the legend of the Melonheads continues to captivate and terrify. It has even inspired a horror film, further embedding this eerie tale in the folklore of Allegan, Michigan. Whether a product of imagination or a distorted fragment of truth, the story of the Melonheads remains a haunting reminder of the power of local legends to endure through generations. spine-chilling legend has been circulating for decades in the bustling corridors of Philippine hospitals, where the air is often heavy with a mix of hope and uncertainty. This tale intertwines the everyday reality of hospital life with the supernatural, a common theme in Filipino folklore. The story often begins on a late-night shift, where a nurse or doctor, weary after hours of tending to patients, finds themselves alone in a dimly lit hospital corridor. The clock ticks closer to midnight, and the usually busy halls now echo with an eerie stillness, setting the stage for what is about to unfold. As the medical professional, let's call her Nurse Anna, approaches the elevator to head home, the doors slide open, revealing a solitary figure inside. Perhaps a janitor or another late shift worker. Just as Nurse Anna steps in and presses the button for the ground floor, she hears the hurried footsteps of someone approaching. Through the closing doors, she catches a glimpse of a figure racing towards the elevator. A figure that seems off in a way she can't immediately place. The other occupant, noticing Nurse Anna's hesitation, inquires why she didn't hold the elevator for the approaching individual. It's then that Nurse Anna's heart drops. She recalls the detail that had alarmed her. The person was wearing a red tag on their wrist, a chilling identifier used in this hospital for bodies in the morgue. As Nurse Anna explained her actions, the atmosphere in the elevator grew colder. With a slow and deliberate movement, the person beside her raises their arm, revealing their wrist with a similar red tag. "Like this one?" they ask, their voice a mere whisper but heavy with unspoken implications. This urban legend has seeped into the fabric of various hospitals across the Philippines, each version adding its local color. In some tales, the spectral figure is a child, lost and wandering the hospital halls. In others, it's a middle-aged man, his presence an omen of something unsettling. The oldest known versions of this legend trace back to the 1990s, evolving to reflect the changing landscapes of Philippine hospitals. Settings like the historic University of Santo Tomas and the bustling Makati Medical Center have served as popular backdrops for the tale, each adding a sense of realism to the ghostly encounter. In the quiet town of Taunton, Massachusetts, the Taunton State Hospital is a dark testament to the past. Built in 1854 on a sprawling 154-acre farm, the hospital, initially known as the State Lunatic Hospital, was a beacon of modern mental health care. It was conceived under the Kirkbride Plan, advocating for the compassionate treatment of the mentally ill with ample sunlight, fresh air, and recreational spaces. However, the hospital harbored a much more sinister reality beneath its revolutionary design and seemingly benevolent intentions. Like many asylums of its era, Taunton State Hospital became a repository for those society wished to forget. Unimaginable suffering and neglect were commonplace, and according to local legend, this dark history paved the way for the hospital to become one of the most haunted places in America. Rumors swirl about the spirits of violent patients who once roamed its halls. One resident was Jane Toppin, a nurse-turned-serial killer whose twisted experiments on her patients led to numerous deaths. Her depraved acts, fueled by a macabre fascination with death, left an indelible mark on the hospital's legacy. But the tales of horror don't end with Toppin. Whispers of a much darker history permeate the hospital's walls. Some believe that certain staff members, including doctors and nurses, were part of a satanic cult. They allegedly used the hospital's basement for ghastly rituals involving human experiments and sacrifices. Unexplained markings and stains in the cellar fueled these rumors. The woods surrounding the hospital are equally eerie. Moans and cries for help echo amongst the trees, and strange lights flicker in the shadows. The nearby cemetery, a final resting place for many patients, is also said to be haunted. Legends recount a patient who, upon hiding in the graveyard, felt an icy grip and heard a chilling whisper urging him to leave. Since then, sightings of apparitions and unexplained phenomena have regularly occurred. Within the hospital, paranormal sightings abound. A spectral figure in white roams the third floor, his form flickering and vanishing without a trace. He crawls along walls in some accounts as a shadow. In others, he strides across corridors in fury. This faceless entity is often seen in the corners of patient rooms, disappearing when lights are turned on. Some speculate this could be the devil himself, an evil presence lingering in the wake of past atrocities. Unexplainable occurrences such as flickering lights, slamming doors, and sudden cold spots are everyday experiences for staff and patients alike. Despite the modernization and renovations over the years, the echoes of its grim past persist, haunting the hallways of Taunton State Hospital. This legend, circulating in various forms around the world, often centers on a group of students who decide to play a prank on a classmate, usually in a setting like a medical school's cadaver room. In one version of the story, a group of medical students organizes a fake study session in the cadaver room to scare their easily frightened classmate. When the girl arrives, finding the room empty, she starts reading her notes. The pranksters, hiding in the room, turn off the lights, plunging the room into darkness. The girl screams in terror, and after a while, when the pranksters turn the lights back on, they find her in a state of shock, gnawing on a piece of the cadaver. Another story variation involves a slightly different setup but ends with a similarly shocking discovery. In one version, a group of nurses at a hospital decide to place an amputated arm in the bed of a fellow nurse, known for being challenging to get along with. The following day, they find her with her hair turned white, gnawing on the amputated arm and making unsettling noises. While these stories are told as actual events, they are classic examples of urban legends, tales shared within cultures and communities, often with slight variations but without verifiable evidence to support their authenticity. The urban legend about a medical student discovering a cadaver assigned to them for dissection to be a relative or someone they know has been a persistent and chilling tale in the medical community. In various versions of this legend, the cadaver turns out to be a long-lost parent, a friend, or even a famous individual. In many medical schools, the practice involves dissecting cadavers with their faces covered to focus on other body parts first, leaving the face for the last part of the semester. This approach serves not only an educational purpose, but also helps in maintaining a level of detachment for the students, who are still learning to navigate the emotional complexities of dealing with deceased bodies. As the legend goes, a student spends an entire semester working on a cadaver, only to experience a shocking revelation at the end. When the time comes to dissect the face, the last part to be uncovered, the student is horrified to discover that the cadaver is their long-lost mother. The anonymity of the cadavers is a crucial aspect, as it helps maintain dignity for the deceased and allows students to learn without the burden of personal connections. This legend is particularly unsettling because, unlike many urban myths, it has roots in reality. There have been documented cases where such incidents have occurred, lending credibility and a sense of dread to the narrative. For instance, the case at the University of Alabama School of Medicine in 1982, where a student discovered her great-aunt among the cadavers, is a stark example. Although the cadaver wasn't the one she was assigned to dissect, the coincidence was striking enough to leave a lasting impression. Another reported case occurred at Dartmouth Medical School in 1958, where a student recognized his cadaver as his former French professor. In both instances, the emotional distress led to the cadavers being substituted, acknowledging the profoundly personal and unsettling nature of these discoveries. These real-life occurrences amplify the legend, reinforcing the eerie possibility that medical students might one day find themselves in a similar, distressing situation. This legend's blend of factual basis and narrative embellishment captures a unique aspect of medical education and the complex relationship between life, death, and learning. In the shadows of urban legends are chilling tales of patients who mysteriously disappear from their hospital beds, only to be found later in the most obscure and remote hospital areas. These stories often involve patients admitted for routine procedures without indicating anything is amiss. Then, inexplicably, they vanish without a trace. The hospital staff, baffled and concerned, initiate searches, but to no avail. It's only much later, often prompted by an ominous smell or a strange leakage, that the truth is revealed. The missing patients are found lifeless, hidden away in ceilings, rafters, or other secluded parts of the hospital, areas where no patient could typically access on their own. In a real-life incident echoing these legends, Teteki Gikotsi, a 61-year-old man, disappeared from Stellenbosch Hospital after abdominal surgery in 2017. Despite being unable to walk unaided, he was nowhere to be found when a nurse momentarily stepped away. His mysterious disappearance led to a police investigation and a search by his family. Still, he remained missing until 2 weeks later when construction workers discovered his body in the hospital's rafters, a location seemingly inaccessible to him. 2 years later, a similarly baffling case occurred at Mahatma Gandhi Hospital with Mr. Sandile Sibia. After being admitted for a broken femur and awaiting a transfer for surgery, Sibia vanished. His disappearance sparked another investigation. 2 weeks later, hospital staff, alerted by an unpleasant smell and leakage from a storeroom ceiling, discovered his decomposed body hidden above. In his book Autopsy, Professor Blumenthal recounts a similar incident. A patient with a chest condition vanished from a major academic hospital and was later found dead in the hospital's rafters, accompanied by a cigarette butt, suggesting a third mysterious case. Adding to these disturbing narratives, San Francisco General Hospital faced its own tragedy. A patient being treated for an infection went missing and was later found dead in a rarely used stairwell despite searches by hospital personnel and sheriff's deputies. This incident raised serious concerns about hospital security and patient safety, leading to multiple investigations and hospital procedure reviews. These cases' mysteries remind us that unforeseen and inexplicable events can occur in seemingly safe situations, turning everyday hospital narratives into tales of intrigue and caution. The legend of Suster Nigesot is a well-known ghost story in Indonesia. It revolves around a nurse, referred to as Suster, meaning nurse in Indonesian, who is forced to crawl, hence Nangesot. In this unsettling narrative, a nurse on a late-night shift at a hospital encounters a distressing incident when she's confronted by a doctor on duty who committed an egregious act. The doctor inflicts severe injuries on her legs, rendering her unable to walk, ultimately resulting in her demise and subsequent haunting of the hospital's hall. This haunting figure is said to be seen crawling with her mutilated legs, often covered in blood. The story has different versions, with one depicting the nurse as a Dutch woman who was attacked by a gang and had her feet amputated as a result of her injuries. The Suster Nigesot is believed to cause paralysis and speechlessness in those she encounters, with these abilities returning once she has passed by. Although considered a myth by some, there have been recent claims of sightings, including one by a janitor in Bandung who experienced a terrifying encounter with this ghostly figure in a hospital. This urban legend has inspired various movies, capturing the imagination and fear of many. The story of Suster Nigesot is a fascinating blend of horror and folklore deeply rooted in Indonesian culture. In a narrative that seems almost too horrific to believe, whispers began to circulate from within the walls of Chinese hospitals. These stories spoke of a ghastly practice, the sale and consumption of aborted fetuses. The rumor contended that these actions were motivated by a deep-seated belief that consuming fetal remains could enhance one's vitality, stamina, and sexual health. This belief, rooted in a combination of ancient superstitions and a gross misinterpretation of traditional medicine, cast a dark shadow over the ethical practices within some medical institutions. Merchants linked to hospitals reportedly engaged in the sale of aborted fetuses for consumption, with prices reaching as high as $300 each. They advertised a range of supposed health advantages, including rejuvenation and asthma relief. In a notable incident, film director Fruit Chan, while recuperating from an accident, was repeatedly given a unique soup by his doctor, only to discover later that it was prepared using fetal remains. Chan and screenwriter Lillian Lee suspected they inadvertently consumed this soup during their hospital research for the 2004 film Dumplings, which depicts this practice. The abstract horror of these rumors took a tangible form when, in 2011, South Korean customs officials intercepted a shocking cargo, capsules filled with powdered human baby flesh. Over 17,000 of these pills, smuggled from China, were seized, giving a horrifying physicality to the previously nebulous rumors. These capsules were not merely a violation of human rights, but stood as a grotesque testament to the darkest aspects of human exploitation. The grim reality of these practices was further unveiled in a South Korean documentary. It shed light on the depths of this macabre trade, showing Chinese doctors nonchalantly storing the bodies of deceased infants in refrigerators. This footage, coupled with testimonies, revealed an undercover operation where corrupt medical staff would notify certain companies when a baby was aborted or delivered stillborn. These companies would then reportedly purchase the bodies, turning them into a gruesome form of medicine. The documentary displayed drying and grinding the bodies into a fine powder, which was then encapsulated and sold under the guise of health supplements. This horrifying practice appears to be linked to certain cultural beliefs and superstitions in parts of China. Historically, some traditional Chinese medicine practices have involved the use of human placentas, but the extension of this to consuming fetuses represents a severe and disturbing deviation. It reflects a distorted view of the unborn, where misguided beliefs about health benefits overshadow the sanctity of life. The Chinese government's denial and claims of no evidence regarding these practices have done little to mitigate the international community's alarm and skepticism. Compounding the issue, the actions of the artist Zhu Yu, who claimed to have eaten a human fetus as part of a performance, added a layer of sensationalism and sparked debates about the limits of art and morality. While it remains unclear whether Zhu's claims were genuine or a provocative fabrication, his actions contributed to the global attention and controversy surrounding these practices. A disturbing story circulating about the vulnerabilities of prolonged comatose patients being taken advantage of by hospital staff. This idea frightens people as it highlights how we are vulnerable under hospital care and are left to trust the hospital staff. But when that trust is broken, there are dire consequences. In a shocking criminal case that unfolded within the walls of a Phoenix-based healthcare facility, a 36-year-old licensed practical nurse named Nathan Sutherland found himself at the center of a disturbing investigation. The case revolved around the maltreatment of a woman in a vegetative state who unexpectedly gave birth, shedding light on a grave breach of trust and vulnerability. The victim, a 29-year-old woman who had been in a vegetative state since a near-drowning incident in 2002, was a resident of the Hacienda healthcare facility. This healthcare institution, known for providing specialized care to individuals with complex medical needs, became the backdrop for the harrowing events that unfolded. Nathan Sutherland, employed at Hacienda Healthcare since 2011, was responsible for caring for the woman at the time of the alleged assault. Following the birth of the child, a DNA sample obtained from Sutherland matched that of the newborn, leading to his arrest. As the investigation progressed, questions arose about the level of oversight and accountability within the healthcare facility. In response to the arrest, Hacienda Healthcare issued a statement expressing deep concern and apologizing to the victim and her family. The facility terminated Sutherland's employment immediately upon learning of his arrest, emphasizing their commitment to ensuring justice and enhancing safety measures within their premises. The case sparked discussions about the adequacy of precautions to protect those entrusted to the care of others. It highlighted the ongoing challenges in safeguarding the rights and dignity of all individuals, regardless of their circumstances. Exploring the darker side of hospital urban legends, we've uncovered chilling tales that leave us questioning our trust in healthcare institutions. From haunted corridors to shocking scandals, these stories remind us of the eerie mysteries that lurk within the walls of hospitals. If you found these legends fascinating, be sure to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling content. See you next time.